Hello and welcome to this episode of The Inner Estate with your host, Bridget Stewart. I am so thrilled. Kara Moll is joining us today. Kara Moll, thank you for being our guest.
It is my pleasure to be here, Bridget. I am so honored to be here visiting with you and your guests.
I know. And one of the reasons that I'm excited that you're here. So Kara Moll, she has Kara Moll Coaching, and you are training, strategizing, and inspiring your clients all across the country. And I would say that you are a really top expert in communication and how we just use language and how utilizing our language can be a huge predictor and indicator of how successful we're going to be, regardless of what type of job you're doing. I want to stop talking because I want to hear from you. So I am going to hand this to you.
Well, I think
can you share with
job.
everyone what you want to share with us today?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, again, thanks for having me, Bridget. You know, you and I go way back, and, one of the things that I have always honed in on, and part of it is because of my own journey, is our communication and how we use our words and that interpersonal communication, right?
Yes.
There was a time in my life, if I could, I'm gonna dial it back a little bit, kind of a little bit of how I really started to get involved with this. There's a time in my life where, I was pretty successful by all standards, and I was very direct, and, had been working with a company that kind of applauds that like, oh, if you're direct, on the DISC assessment, it's that high D, right? And it's
yes.
like, oh, yay, good for you. So it was rewarded. However, what I started realizing, and I would love to say I had the self-realization, but really it was one of my mentors pointed it out to me, that if you continue to lead by leaving dead bodies in your wake,
correct,
eventually there's no one left to lead.
Yes.
And I thought, very interesting. I probably said something, because this is a family show, right? I probably said something not too good back to him, so we'll keep it clean.
Right.
And then I went on, right? I just walked away. But his words, they sunk in.
Yes.
And, had that internal juxtaposition of, well, do I have to change who I am? And I started thinking, well, yeah. If I want to be even more successful, leaders bring people along with them. Leadership is earned. It's not given. And what I realized, I was acting very much like a boss with everybody in my life, whether it was personal or in the work scenario, instead of someone who leads people. And I went on this journey of self-discovery. And what I learned was, by studying things like neuro-linguistic programming and the language techniques, and became a master at that for years and used to teach a pretty high-level class on that. And then more recently, my affiliation with Phil M. Jones, the author. Just curiosity is what it's all about, right?
Yes.
And if we really go back to that, Susan Scott, who wrote Fierce Conversations years ago, she said something that I think, I reference that book often, but the one thing that really stuck out to me was the conversation is the relationship.
Yes.
And if you aren't having a conversation, talking, right? If you're just having versations everywhere, there's no relationships. So I became really passionate about, man, oh man, if I could do work on myself and change, anybody could. So I kind of set out on a journey to help as many people get more powerful in their language under the umbrella of how to close more transactions in their career in sales and things like that. But really, if I heard it once, I've heard it, thousands of times. The stuff that I've taught changed their life,
yes.
Not just their business.
Not just their business.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Because if you embrace and allow your language to seep into your inner circle and your family and your key relationships, they all improve.
Yes. Bridget, one of the most touching things, and I'm gonna attempt to do this without getting too teary on this, is when we were, one or two classes into this language class, and one of the gentlemen that was in the class called me the day after the class. And I thought, well, this is unusual because people never call me. You always say, oh, reach out if you need anything, and nothing.
Right.
And this gentleman called, and I thought, I wonder what's going on. So I answered, and he said, I just wanted to thank you. My son is on the autism spectrum. He's one of the techniques that we had been talking about. And for the first time, I think I connected with him in a long time.
Wow.
And that, go close more deals.
Right.
But that's changing someone's life.
That's changing someone's life.
That's changing someone's life for the better. And there's that ripple effect. I want to be the pebble that helps people. And I just want to clarify something I said too. Like, I'm not the one making the change. I'm just planting the seed that change is possible. The person has to be willing to make the change and embrace the change. And many times they think of that change as this big, and really it's just this
small.
big. Yeah, make that one little tweak.
I mean, you and I have discussed this in the past, where you share with everyone that the skill is already within you. So anyone who's made it to adulthood with any level of functionality.
And some of us should, and some of us shouldn't have. But I mean, I don't know. No.
That the skills are inside of you.
Yes.
The words are inside of you.
Right.
And it's really up to the individual to make the effort to just learn the nuances of how to put it together.
That's exactly it. We're not teaching someone how to speak, Spanish or French. What we're doing is we're just saying, take what you already have, what you've been doing since you're 2 years old, right?
Correct.
You've been speaking since you're 2 years old, or, give or take, and take that and go, how can we polish it? What is the nuance we could bring? How can we just rearrange it a little bit? I liken it to, making a cake or following a recipe, right? There are those recipes that you can just throw everything in and it'll be just fine, right? It'll be just fine. But there's others that you've really got to follow it step by step by step and do the steps in the order with which it was intended to be able to get the best outcome. So any of the outcomes below that might be acceptable, but if there's a better or best, that's what we're looking to unlock. I also think that people are very much like a kaleidoscope. They've got that beautiful, they're made of all those beautiful crystals, which is everything that lives in our head, including our words. And just one little turn creates an entirely new, beautiful picture.
Yes.
And that to me is so exciting. I mean, we have everything we need within us. It's just, okay, what are the little changes that we need to make that could change an outcome in a situation?
Well, give us an example. What's an example that anyone could relate to?
Well, there's a concept that I know from. I've been doing this for years, but I recently heard the title of it was simple swaps, where if you want someone to do something and you're asking questions, you're using a simple swap on words. Instead of something costing, oh, that's going to cost a lot of money. Well, is it a cost or is it an investment? Right. So you're just swapping out language that makes it the person more powerful. Because here's the other thing that's super important. The last time I looked up the stat, 97% of everything we do every single day is habit. It's habit.
It's crazy.
We're not stopping to think like, oh my gosh, talk with my hands right now and I've got to move every little muscle in my fingers and all of this stuff. It's just happening.
Correct.
Our words are the same. We use our habitual vocabulary. So if your vocabulary's purview is like this, all we're doing is saying, okay, maybe open it a little or turn it, just tweak it just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Exactly. So there's a lot of different ways. A big example that I think a lot of people can relate to is, I think there's a lot of people that are like me. They might not like to be told what to do. I don't know. I mean, it's just me. You're not the boss of me syndrome. You're not the yeah, I'm sure. You're not the boss of me syndrome. And what happens is when someone tells us what to do unsolicited, we hear it in a voice in a negative capacity, meaning we hear it in the stern parent, the teacher that was hard on us, the coach that was like hard on us. We hear it in that voice and it creates resistance. So instead of telling, it's asking. It's asking the person. And I'm not just saying, do I have permission to share an observation with you, because right then you already know what. Like,
It's going to
the
be
news
negative.
comment ain't going to be good, right?
Right, yeah.
It's not gonna be good. It's,
Right.
how open would you be to hearing something, or me sharing something I've observed? Or one of the things I love doing too is creating metaphors for things, right?
Mhm.
Like what we talked about with the recipe earlier. People can
Right.
relate to things like that. So it's asking the questions instead of telling, but asking them in a way that isn't a closed-ended yes or no question. It's a question that really helps the person think, which gets them talking. And when they're talking, they're answering their own questions.
Correct.
Yes.
Yes.
So that's the cool part. And there's an art to it. You got to practice it
You
in
do.
order to be
I
good at it.
agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
You really do. To develop that nuanced skill, you have to practice it.
Without a
And
doubt.
you know what I think is not talked about enough is when you actually practice how to phrase questions and
Mhm.
how to connect with people and how to make people feel as if they're important,
Yes.
you actually listen at a much higher level.
Because you're not just showing you care, you
Right.
actually do care.
Do you actually
Right?
care?
If you go into the conversation thinking, how can I help this person? And it's a blank slate, you have a much higher opportunity to actually help them than going in and going, I already know what their problem is. I've seen this before. Well, there are times where we give absolutely brilliant advice for the absolute wrong problem.
Correct.
Not everybody is the same.
Are you
And
following me with a camera?
I'm living it, girl. I'm living it. I mean, none of us are perfect. This
Right.
is life, right? But it's an art to be able to sit back and say, I'm not going to give any advice. I'm going to go into this next conversation, whether we call it a tough conversation, a hard conversation, or just a fact-finding conversation, and just say, I'm going to play the question game.
Yes.
I'm not going to answer anything unless it's in the form of a question.
A question.
And that's so much fun and somewhat frustrating.
Mhm. Right.
But it's a very fun game. I love people that I'm working with that are looking to change their language and to get better at this. I have them play the question game with their family without their family knowing. Like, the next time you sit down at the dinner table, play the question game and let's just see what happens. See if you can do it without getting caught. That's how you win the question game.
I'm sure if they have teenagers, the teenagers love it.
Yeah. No. Whatever.
No, I think that it is fun. And you know what? Why not add some humor and some joy into refining your skills for what you're using in your career?
Absolutely. You know why? Humor anchors it at a deeper level,
Yes.
right? The same way, like, if you screw something up and you can laugh about it, you're going to remember it, but you're going to remember the positive. It's not only going to be, oh, I shouldn't do this anymore. It's, okay, and here's how I went on. I survived, right?
Yeah,
And I'm
here's how I
still
picked
here.
myself up and
Exactly.
took a bow and made it right,
Exactly.
or moved ahead.
You trip on your face in front of the crowd, stand up and
Yeah.
wave, right?
That's right, yeah.
I think of that Carrie Bradshaw, what was it, that show that was on before and Just Like That, right? Where she was the model in the runway and she was walking down the runway and she fell flat on her face. And it's like, okay, get up, keep
Well,
walking.
get up.
What are you going to do?
Yeah,
What are you going to do? Just laugh about it.
right.
Yeah.
I know you and I in our supermodeling days, we never fell. Yeah.
No.
But
It was a very short career. Didn't have much opportunity to do that.
I would like for you to share,
But yeah.
if someone is out there and they're like, okay, you mentioned high Ds. You correct me if you disagree, but I feel like high Ds, high driver types,
Yeah.
and analytical types, which would be like a high C,
Huh?
I think that they present some of the lowest flexibility or the least amount of versatility in communicating with other personality types. So let's just say that there's a high D or a high C listening to us today, and they're like, now is the time, and I desire to become more versatile in my communication skills. What would you recommend as a first step?
The first step would be to recognize that I believe this isn't a symptom of just a high D or high C. I believe someone who is a high I personality, right, wants to
Well,
be, kind of the center of attention, things like
yes.
that. And even the S wants their voice to be heard, right? The voice to be heard is really at the root of all of this, right? The high D, you're going to listen to me. The high C, let me explain to you why, right? The high I is like, I've got the answer, I've got the answer. And the S is like, oh, I just want someone to listen to me, right? At the root of it is the innate human desire to be heard, to be significant. So if someone's looking to change the way they operate, to be able to flex, right? Because flexibility and communication is a sign of intelligence.
Yes.
If someone's looking to do that, you can't go the cold turkey, right? You can't say, tomorrow it's January 1st and I'm changing everything. It's what important conversations do we have that are on repeat? And in exactly what to say, we call this critical conversations, right? What are the conversations that we have on repeat that the outcome of that conversation could be game changing? That conversation happens a lot. And how could we tweak it so that we get a different outcome? Or we can present in a way that opens the person in the other side of the conversation to create a different outcome. And so it would be looking at what are the critical conversations in life, in business. I would start there with those two and say, okay, what are the conversations that I'm having on repeat that if I just change the way I approached it by asking different questions, I might get a completely different outcome.
At 1-800-Flowers.com, we know that connections are at the heart of being human. Whether celebrating life's joys or comforting during tough times, 1-800-Flowers helps you express what words can't. For nearly 50 years, millions have trusted 1-800-Flowers to deliver thoughtful gifts that help create lasting bonds. Because it's more than just a gift. It's your way of showing you care. Visit 1-800-Flowers.com/podcast and connect today. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/podcast.
A very common one, Bridget. If anybody who's ever had any type of significant other in their life,
Yes.
what do you want for dinner? What do you want for dinner? Probably one of the most critical conversations we have. And it's on repeat. And how many times is it like, I don't know, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Until you start naming things and it's like, no. Then it's not whatever.
Correct.
It's not whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's techniques that we teach that help through questions narrow it down. So it's like, wait, you want pizza in front of the TV watching the newest episode of Severance tonight, like at 7:00? And it beats pizza from here? Amazing. But it's asking a series of questions that get that person there, that are a series of yes-based questions or no elimination questions that just lead the person down the track. So if you get someone that is a C-type personality, kind of analytical, they're going to be really good at coming up with the analytical questions, but they're probably going to be long, so they're going to have to shorten it.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
And they don't have to give the evidence. They just have to ask the question. The evidence will present itself. You get someone that's that high D communication style, they're going to have to slow down just a little bit and relish in the thought that they know the answer and they know that thing, but they got to play the game. Right?
Right.
And then
Right.
the I's and the S's somewhere in between the same way.
Mm-hmm. One thing we didn't talk about yet, and I think it's so critical, is guess who we have the most conversations with in our entire life?
It's that person in the mirror, isn't it?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
So when I think about a first step, what would you think, Kara, about someone starting with their internal dialogues?
Well, not so different than what we talked about, Bridget. It's what are the conversations that you're having with yourself on repeats, right? If it's constantly, I'll just use an example that I hear from females a lot. I don't have anything to wear. As you're standing in your walk-in closet with things all around.
Yeah.
The problem is not that you don't have anything to wear. It's that you don't feel comfortable enough in your skin.
Correct.
To pull one of those things and just be able to put it on and walk out the door. So then the dialogue becomes, what's causing me to feel like I have nothing to wear? And what can I do about that thing? And am I willing to do the work to make the change? See, so often our language becomes a shield too, right? It's a shield we throw up. It's a deflector. It's Captain America's shield that keeps everything off. When the reality is, it's because we have so many other things going on in our life. We don't want to have to deal with that. And yet, if we dealt with those things internally, it's just a guess based on personal history, everything else in life becomes a little easier.
It does.
Yeah, because you're not carrying around that mental weight. No pun intended with what we were talking about. You're not carrying around that mental weight, and it frees up your brain space to, create and think and move on to the next thing.
I think that starting with the internal conversations, can be life-changing.
Absolutely. And don't get me wrong, it can also be scary as all heck, right? It can be scary because you're really, when you hold up that mirror, you're looking at it from the standpoint of, wow, is this really who I am, and is this who I want to be? And you're going to come up with some elements that are like, oh yeah, heck yeah. Yes, this is on the right path. But there's 7 circles in life. And if we're unhappy in any one of them and it's weighing on us, it takes those wheels and just kind of tilts the cart or whatever. Things aren't working the way they should. And unfortunately, those things cause, and it's not like one of the 7 wheels is a little off, the other 6 will carry it. That one that is off becomes heavier or larger, more non-existent, so that it definitely throws off the balance. Then add in another circle where things are off, forget it.
And if that circle implodes or explodes, things are really sideways.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Change isn't easy, because if it was, everybody would do it. And you've got to understand, you've heard things like, well, you have to understand your why. You have to know your why. Why are you doing something? And oh my gosh, and I know you know this about me, Bridget, that word drives me crazy. It drives me insane, because why in and of itself is a confrontational word. Our brain is programmed that why becomes confrontational. So if you're feeling that way, stop asking yourself why you're doing something. Why am I like this? Why do I always feel this way? It's like, well, what's the purpose that this is serving? Or what's the purpose behind me believing that there's nothing in my closet I want to wear? What's the real purpose behind that? And what do I want that purpose to be? Shift it, because there's a lot of power in recognizing purpose, because purpose is something you can go create.
Right. You can hone in on it, focus, it can expand. And there's also another word that came to mind is freedom.
Yeah.
So there's freedom when you identify the purpose. There's freedom when you just say to yourself, I understand now the issue with the closet door, and I'm releasing 50% of this back into the wild, right? Maybe donating.
So smart.
But if you do that prior to identifying the purpose, then it feels painful or heavy, or it's counterproductive.
Absolutely.
I agree. Purpose is a word that fills energy, and it gives you a feeling of ability.
Yes.
More so
it has
than
forward momentum.
why. Right.
It has forward momentum. Why is backward facing. Why did you do that? That's in the past.
Yeah.
Purpose is, for what purpose am I doing this right now or going to do it in the future? You automatically are moving forward without a whole lot of change other than just one word.
It's amazing. And you mentioned another word, which I think is also powerful, and that is curiosity.
Yes.
And I always love to reference the coaches that have had a huge impact on my life. One of them's Matthew Ferry. And he taught me in the early 2000s to be, he's like, become obsessed with being curious.
Yes.
When you're getting ready for a listing appointment or a buyer consultation, you go, I am so curious. I cannot wait to hear what they want to do. And he had
I
me
love
do
it.
this entire routine, which I won't shock everyone with. And that has stayed with me for over 20 years. So when I get on a coaching call or I'm doing a Q&A after a training event, I get into that same mindset. I'm like, I'm so curious. What are they going to ask and what do they want to know? So that I think curiosity to me is gas you put in your tank. If you keep that filled up, your communication skills are naturally going to be better because you're going to want to know more about the person you're talking to.
Yes.
And less committed to getting your point across.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Think about it. Think about the fact that if you stay in curiosity long enough, it actually creates certainty. So if you go back to the example that we had, that I was talking about earlier, where someone, you give the great advice for the wrong problem.
Yeah,
it's because the person asking the questions that's trying to help the other person in the conversation comes in going certain that they know what the problem is. And again, so often the thing is not the thing. The problem is not the problem. It's something deeper.
Right.
And when you ask enough questions and you stay in curiosity for long enough, certainty becomes evident. And once you now have that certainty, it creates a relatability or an empathy with that other person. And now is when you've really got the relationship starting to form. It's really starting to form. And once that relatability and empathy is there, well, that gives the person courage to take action and move forward. And here, all you've done is asked some great questions around it. Now, here's something that I want everybody to hear, because sometimes great questions, that phrase can be misinterpreted. In the coaching world, and I know you've heard this too, where people are like, oh, it's the throat punch. I asked the throat punch question. Who in their right mind wants to be punched in the throat and have a relationship with punching someone in the throat, right? So it's like, no. Think of it like this. And this is from one of my great mentors, is a conversation is like a game of, I would say, tennis or maybe pickleball. I haven't played pickleball, so I don't know, but I'm presuming. Okay, so the person, you're doing the warm-up lob, right? The first person asks the question, lobs the ball over. You want them to lob it back with an answer, and then you lob it back and forth and back and forth. If I came up and did a throat punch, it would be that ace. Guess what just ended the conversation?
The whole volley. Yep.
Right. So when we're talking about great questions are not like some, oh my gosh, I have to think of the best question ever. I'm going to go to ChatGPT and have them give me 25 different questions I can ask. No, the simpler, the better. Keep it simple and just ask the question that you really want the answer to. And that keeps the conversation going.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because I can't even say the phrase, that never resonated with me. So I'm going to allow you to be the one that said it. And the other thing that ties in with this great questions is sometimes coaches, like you said, I'm going to run it through chat and then I'm going to customize it again and run it through again because I want it to be, I almost feel like sometimes we're striving so hard to be so clever and to have the most clever question that's almost like a zinger. That's more about you. It is not about your client or customer 100%. or friend. It's not about it's not about them. It's about like, let me show them. I'm going to show them how brilliant and clever. So I'm so glad you brought that up, because I really hadn't thought about it. And you're so right.
You're absolutely right in that, Bridget. At that moment, it does become about the person. It's about me. And look what I can do, right? Mm-hmm. Versus how can I help the other person? Stop, people need to stop thinking like, okay, what's the zinger? And wind it back to, what are the 5 things I really need to know about this person to be able to help them? And craft simple, easy to answer questions around that, instead of some like earth-shattering question. Because last time I checked, there's not like some giant book of earth-shattering questions somewhere that you get recorded in. You make the person on the other side of the conversation feel dumb, because usually the response to that was, I asked this throw question and they just sat there. They didn't know what to say.
Right. Yeah.
How is that a win?
Yeah.
How is that a win?
Ooh, I got them.
Right. The reality is you want them to be able to sit and think. But if they're feeling like you just punched them, they're going to be like, I mean, what if I just walked up to you right now and punched you, Bridget? What are you going to do? You're going to punch me back. You're going to walk away. You're going to cry. You're going to roll in a ball. You're going to go get all your friends and beat me up. I mean, whatever. None of them have a good outcome.
No.
None of them have a good outcome. Stop trying to, get people with the zingers or the throw punches, and just really, ask the questions you want to ask, and from genuine curiosity, from the heart.
Yes.
And that's how you build the relationships. Because here's an example that I learned years ago. And I think that most people can relate to this. If you ever go to a party and meet someone new, and at the end of the night, you're driving home with, whoever you went with or your significant other, like, oh my gosh, I met Bridget tonight and she was so amazing. I just love talking with her, blah, blah, blah. And you realize that I don't really know a whole lot about Bridget, but what Bridget did was ask me a lot of questions about me, and it felt good without me, like Bridget showed genuine interest in me, and therefore I feel good about myself.
That's right.
And that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about when you show genuine interest in the other person, they're going to connect. Now, does that mean you're going to connect with everybody? No, because certain people you're just not going to connect with. Mm-hmm. And that's okay. That's why we talk about being authentic, being yourself. Your people are out there. There's how many billion people in the world? Like a lot, a lot. I mean, your people are out there.
I was thinking, and this is kind of big picture, and I know that you're aware of this. So currently at least in the United States, I have not done research on it might be North America, actually. There is a loneliness epidemic, and currently it had been impacting predominantly men. Unfortunately, women are closing the gap, and it's something that is an issue we're facing as a society. And when I think about those of us who are in leadership, those of us who are in sales, and even outside of our chosen industry, any industry, people that are in customer service, if we all embraced the power of this type of language and being curious about anyone we encountered through the day, and we have a purpose of having it be more important that the people we interact with feel as if they're important rather than proving that we're right, could we start to have an impact on that issue that we're facing as a society?
Whenever I need to send roses that are guaranteed to make someone's day, the only place I trust is 1-800-Flowers.com. With 1-800-Flowers, my friends and family always receive stunning, high-quality bouquets that they absolutely love. Right now, when you buy a dozen multicolored roses, 1-800-Flowers will double your bouquet to 2 dozen roses. To claim this special double roses offer, go to 1-800-Flowers.com/podcast. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/podcast.
Absolutely. 100%. And it's an unfortunate epidemic. That's been the result of, the after effects of the pandemic.
Yes.
And yes, I just read a study on this, and people are craving community. They're craving one-on-one interaction or small group interaction. And I travel a lot. I mean, this as a sales trainer, I'm constantly traveling around the country. And one of the things that I think about all the time is I look at the person who's checking people in the airport, whether they're at the ticket counter or right before you get on the airplane. And inevitably, if there's a delay, you've got someone up there that's yelling at that person. And I'm thinking, first of all, why are you doing that to the one person who can control whether you get on this plane or not, right?
I know, yeah.
And secondly, God bless that person on the receiving end for coming back to work every day in dealing with this. So I made a conscious decision long ago that I'm going to be that face that is the opposite, that I'm going to say to the bathroom attendant, to the ticket person, thank you for what you do. I appreciate what you do, because you never know when someone on the other side of the conversation needs to hear that message.
Yes.
And it could be the difference of the person who just got screamed at by the person who wants to get on the plane, and me going up there and going, listen, I just want to know, is there a plane going out tonight? If not, I'm going to take care of myself, but could you put me on one tomorrow? I'm cool. And they're like, okay. And by the way, you're doing an amazing job. So if you want, I'll just stand up here for a few minutes and I'm going to smile and you just take a couple deep breaths and rest.
Right.
Right. And it's leave the world a better place than you left it, because I honestly think I'm still trying to catch up on the karma of the Kara that used to be, that would run over the people. So I'm just going to get out there and spread as much of it as I can while I'm still on this earth. Yeah.
I love that. And yeah, why not? I have a similar game that I play with myself. So if I'm at a restaurant and the service is bad, I stop myself and I think, I don't know what's happened in that person's life leading up till this moment. And I am one of those goofy people where I still leave a great tip and I put a little note on the receipt and give it, and just, I just made that as like that's what I'm going to do. They're probably having a horrible day. It's only getting worse. If I can be one glimmer of switching the tide to get better, I'm going to do that.
Right. I think that is such a brilliant thing to do. And if we as a society could just understand that when we're in what could be construed as a negative conversation, that it's not about us, that, I mean, this in real estate, we've talked for years about, calling, agents calling people basically looking for business and things like that, and people being afraid to because they're going to get yelled at on the other side of the phone. And it's like all in a TCPA compliant way, by the way.
Of course.
We're
yes.
Right.
Yes.
So it's hard to understand in that moment that is nothing about you. It's
That's
nothing about you. It's about the person on the other end of the phone that didn't put the clothes in the dryer, is trying to make dinner, has one kid calling going, you forgot to pick me up from soccer practice.
Right.
By the way, the other one going, where are my ballet shoes? Right.
Yeah.
Like,
and the dog just puked.
Oh my gosh. Yes. And 25 other things going on. And they're like, no, I'm not interested in talking to you right now because life is happening right here. If people on the other hand heard that, it would be a different game changer for most salespeople. For most sales, instead of like, hi, how are you? How's your day going?
Right.
If my day is going pretty cruddy, I'm not going to be like, oh, my day's going pretty cruddy. I'm so glad you called right now. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Right? Why are you calling? Let me know and let's move on. If I want to talk to you, I'm going to talk to you. If not, I'm going to move on to.
I'm not. Right.
Right. Exactly.
Well, I love that you are so passionate about what you do.
Thank you.
And I know you're, Kara Moll Coaching. You have a great website. If people wanted to reach out, they can reach out there. But you're passionate, as you even have it in your tagline of it's training, strategizing, and inspiring.
Yes.
And really just with your knowledge about communication skills, and really to me, that's relationships, because the conversation's the relationship, right? Like we talked about.
Yeah.
I just think that what you're doing is really impactful. And if anyone wants to reach out, please reach out. Is there anything you'd like to share before we wrap up?
I would just say at this point that there's so many great things happening and evolving in our world. And you can be one of the people, listener, that creates that change. And it's, again, like I gave the example of the kaleidoscope. You don't have to reinvent anything. You've already got it within you. What's one little thing? What's one critical conversation that you desire to change? That you have on repeat over and over and over again, that you desire to change, and focus on that. I've got some great webinars coming up. I've got lots of great things happening. You can find more information on my website. And I think if anybody's looking for information, I've got a VIP list. And I know, Bridget, you've got the link to that you're going to share with everybody. I've got a great VIP list because we've got in-person We've got a Where's Kara page that we're updating, where I'm going places and speaking and training and doing workshops.
That's awesome.
As well as virtual things. So would be happy to share that with anybody who's interested in attending.
Excellent. And all of that information is in the description.
Yes.
So feel free to click and find out more, or go straight to karamoll.com. Well, this has been fascinating. I hope you will come back and join us again.
Would be honored to continue the conversation, change the conversation. Any day that I get to talk to you, Bridget, and have people like listening and just soaking in, again, that one little bit is a great day. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you so much for being our guest. And I hope that you'll join me again on the Inner Estate. Thank you so much and have a great day.